Maybe furniture store. We believe the things you choose for your home should last your family years to come. Whether it's a cozy furniture for your bedroom, living room, or kitchen appliances, we've got it all. Obsess over your home's comfort. We'll obsess to ensure it's affordable with zero-down options and home by you in no time. Visit JD Furniture showroom in Arima or www.jdfurniturestore.com to buy and apply today. Open weekdays only. Call or WhatsApp 219-3000 today.
You see, I can't do that. You have to touch it. So some reason they don't like my color. I have to touch it for it because you stay away and I didn't believe it. And I really come down and become a wood burning nice on my side. That's something to do with it.
JD Furniture Store. We believe the things you choose for your home should last your family years to come. Whether it's a cozy furniture for your bedroom, living room, or kitchen appliances, we've got it all. Obsess over your home's comfort, and we'll obsess to ensure it's affordable with zero-down options and home by you in no time. Visit JD Furniture showroom in Arima or www.jdfurniturestore.com to buy and apply today. Open weekdays only. Call or WhatsApp 219-3000 today. JD Furniture Store. We believe the things you choose for your home should last your family years to come. Whether it's a cozy furniture for your bedroom, living room, or kitchen appliances, we've got it all. Obsess over your home's comfort, and we'll obsess to ensure it's affordable with zero-down options and home by you in no time. Visit JD Furniture showroom in Arima or www.jdfurniturestore.com to buy and apply today. Open weekdays only. Call or WhatsApp 219-3000 today.
Again, Trinidad and Tobago this morning. Just Akira and I, we are going here this morning. Candice is attending to matters of the heart, and she'll be with us, I don't know, but she'll be with us soon. I can't say if it's next week, but she will be with us. She has not abandoned us. It's just that she's really occupied this morning and today. And today I want to deal with the topic Africa and the Bible. Africa and the Bible. I know it's a topic that you hear it on the street sometimes, especially people with a little knowledge. A little knowledge is a bad thing. And I know you have heard many times people say that's a white man book. So this morning, Akira and I will go into discussing Africa and the Bible. But before I do that, I want to deal with the Word to the Wise. You know, the Word to the Wise has been a segment on this program for about 13 of the 23 years. You know, someone drew this to my attention last week, that this is the longest Christian program on the airwaves in Trinidad and Tobago. And before that, the program that was there before as a long-lasting program was a program called Voice of Prophecy from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And so there's something about Seventh-day Adventists that when we do things, we go wrong because we do it right the first time. So we have been here for 23 years, and some people have gotten accustomed to the idea of the Word to the Wise. And because of that, they had asked me, I find you are not sent you on real TV. I'm not hearing anything about the Word to the Wise. So this morning I want to delve into a segment of the word to the wise. Now our country is at the crossroads. We are seeing changes as fast as the changes that are happening in America. And these things are not to be taken lightly, to be dust aside, to just say, well, is a new government and changes have consequences, and we say things like that. But there's something deeper than that is happening. The issue of our government seems to be fully have a desire to follow the will of America. That is not by chance. We are just falling in line faster than others who will fall in line as the days go by. You recognize that the President of the United States, he's using bullying tactics of tariffs to bring big nations in line, like India, like China, like the European Union. And you ask yourself, what is this about? It is a lineup of a prophecy. This rise of right-wing governments across the world, almost every new government now is right-wing. There's a lining up of the prophecy that will lead to the mark of the beast. And we'll see what is being done in Trinidad. The Caribbean will catch a fire with these same, and I want to say silly ideas. But they will come. It will come because this is a pattern that the world is heading into a certain direction. And that direction is where persecution will come to those who love the Lord. I think tomorrow they're having a prayer for self-independence, and the prayer is being held at the Diwali Naga. Strange. Not at President's house, not at the President's grounds, not at one of our stadiums, not at Queen's Park, but at the Diwali Naga. And these things must not be just looked at and move on to the next. Something is happening in the world today. There's a lineup behind right-wing ideas and right-wing ideology and religious ideology. There's a lining up of these things. And before long, you'll see the world will line up in one place, in one direction. And those who oppose will be persecuted. I'm speaking from the Bible, and one of these mornings out here, we'll go through that whole idea of the mark of the beast, and you will understand exactly what is happening around the world. A word to the wise is sufficient. Now, almost I can't say, Akira, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Pastor.
And we are in a place. I guess I'm certain that you have heard many times that this Bible is a white man book.
I have, most definitely. Yes. That is the argument that persons don't want to accept it. Yeah.
Yes. So this is, it is done frequently, but it is done because of sheer ignorance.
Yeah.
And so this morning I want us just to walk through why it is so, how it has become so. At those who want to hear will hear. Now, not everybody you talk to will hear what you are saying, you know.
Yeah.
Those who want to hear will hear. Mm-hmm. So I just want us to go through that this morning and hope that somebody, somewhere, will come to the place to understand what we are talking about.
Yeah. So, my first question to start off would be, what is the relationship between Africa and the Bible? For those of us who don't even think that there's a relationship, for those of us who are in some sort of confusion, what is the relationship between Africa and the Bible?
Well, if you are a diligent reader of the Bible, and you are reading it from a historical point of view, perspective, you recognize that all of the Bible is written in Africa and in the area we call Mesopotamia at that time, which is the Middle East now. You recognize the entire stories are from those areas. So to begin with, you recognize that the Bible and Africa, it is really a story coming out of Africa. Yeah. You recognize that up front, that there is no London there, there's no New York or Baltimore. You recognize there's nothing like Paris or you reckon nothing like these things are there. You recognize the places that you see there and places that you scroll on your maps. You recognize these are just Middle Eastern and African places. In fact, when the Bible talks about Egypt, you're talking about a whole vast landmass. The entire area was called Ethiopia.
Yeah.
We recognize a vast landmass there that is so Egypt. So you recognize as you begin, the relationship with the Bible and Africa is that it came out of Africa. All the stories were in Africa and Mesopotamia, which we know as the Middle East today.
Yeah. You know, as you broke that down for me, Pastor, understanding like the origin of the Bible being in Africa, I want to go on to ask, was not the Bible taken to Africa by Europeans? We're looking at slavery and we're looking at colonization. Wouldn't you say that the Bible was taken to Africa by the Europeans?
Yes and no. Yeah, no in the sense that colonizers or those folks who conquer, history is always written by the victors. Remember that. So as they went into Africa and they met these people who were honest people, you know, how a man thinking is hard, but I say how a man thinking is hard. So you see, whatever you think to do, you will suspect somebody else of doing something like that. So when they found these folks, when they went and they conquered Africa, and they found these folks, for the most part, they found folks who were honest, who were saying what they were saying, who believed the same way I would treat with you, that's the way you would treat with me. And that was not the case. And because of that whole colony thing, they stripped them of their culture, they took some as slaves, they took the book from them because there's no origin of any religion in the West, more than New Age and now AI and things like that. Selfishness and individualism, all those things came from the West. Yeah. In Africa, in the Middle East, in India, in all these places, they know about family, they know about group, they don't know about individual behavior. When they were stripping the Africans, they stripped them of everything. In fact, there are books that were written. You have to understand how the Bible is written also. But there are books that were written dealing with these stories that are prominent in the Bible, that were written long before even the Bible was written. So the custom and the ideas are germane to Africa. So when you speak about Abraham coming from Ur of the Chaldees, all these things are African places, African stories. So the Bible and Africa is like a stamp on a leather, like Bonnie and Clyde. It is one book. It's an African book. It's an African. So
you know, you spoke about Ur and the Chaldees, right? Mm-hmm. Is that a place or a city in Africa?
No, and I want those who are listening to us this morning. We are living a time when information is at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So if you Google or go into any search machine, Yahoo or Dogfart or any one of them, and you put Ur of the Chaldees, it will take you to a place in Africa. It will take you to the Chaldean kingdom, which was a leading kingdom many years ago, 4,000 years ago. It was a leading kingdom. And what you will recognize when you pull up the Chaldean people, you recognize they look very much as Terrance, Browne, and you recognize that. So when you speak about Ur of the Chaldees, you are speaking about African people. African people, they varied, you know, from the Horn of Africa all the way to Egypt. You see different peoples, but basically they are all African people. And you recognize that Chaldees were populated by these different shades and different moves and different types, but they were all African people. So when you speak about Ur of the Chaldees, Ur was a city in Chaldea, the Chaldeans' capital. It was a place for partying and revelry and all sorts of illicit behavior. It was a grand city. And that's why God called Abraham out of Ur of the Chaldees.
Yeah. So on the topic of Abraham, right? Father of many sons. Was Abraham not a Jew? And on top of that, were there Jews living in Chaldea?
Well, Abraham became a Jew. You see, they have the Jordan River.
Yeah.
And there are some parts of the Jordan River that you could just hop over. And there are some parts that you could hardly see the bank on the other side. But the people in Chaldea, they believe anytime you go south, something bad will happen to you. Something terrible will happen to you. So when God had called Abraham father before, and he did not move on, but when God called Abraham, and Abraham set off for Ur of the Chaldees, when he came out that morning, I'm dealing with folklore now, when he came out that morning, the people wanted to know where he was going. And when he indicated to them that he was going to cross the Jordan, and he's going to go down to a place called Canaan, they were flabbergasted. I mean, how could you cross the Jordan? Why would you want to do that when we have a story that something happens after you cross the Jordan? But Abraham said he really didn't know who was calling him. But he knew that some power was calling him to cross the Jordan.
Yeah.
And when he motioned his people, his staff, his children, his servants to cross the Jordan, the people shouted something and they said, Arim. And that means he's a Hebrew. And Hebrew means to cross over. So wherever Abraham went, he was known as the Hebrew, and his children came to be known as the children of the Hebrew, meaning the children who cross over. So Abraham came a Hebrew. Abraham was a Chaldean. He came from Chaldea. He was a Chaldean. But after he crossed the Jordan, the people shouted, Abiram, you are Hebrew. So Abraham became a Hebrew after he crossed the Jordan. So he was not like a Jew living. And I want to say, he definitely wasn't these characters in Israel today, these murderers and these baby killers and these people causing famine. He wasn't nothing like Netanyahu.
Yeah.
If you put Netanyahu to sit down and you put me to sit down and you say who Abraham was going to look like, he would look more like me than Netanyahu. I want you to know that. He might even look close to Abbas and all, but definitely he will not be what these Christians are calling Jews today.
Yeah.
Even the Bible spoke about those who call themselves Jews. They are really converts, Amorites who have been converted to Judaism.
Yeah.
But Abraham was a Chaldean. I want you to know that. Whoever listening to me now, Abraham was a Chaldean. And out of this Chaldean came all the prophets. Came Jesus Christ, came Paul and Barnabas, came John and James out of this Chaldean. And it wasn't a long time, it took like a million years to see where they could have moved from looking like Chaldean to looking Arab. No, it wasn't such a long time.
Yeah.
From Abraham to Jesus was not such a long time. That could have changed the face of this Chaldean to make him a white man.
Yeah.
It just could not have happened. The time would not have permitted that.
Yeah. You know, Pastor, as you spoke about Chaldea, I'm thinking about the tectonic plates and it shifted and everything. So is Chaldea still in Africa?
Yes, the Chaldean kingdom, oh God, I forget the name. But the Chaldean kingdom is one of those kingdoms in Western Africa right now. And they may not have gone by the name Chaldean because Chaldean is really a kingdom.
Yeah.
So it may not have gone by the name Chaldean today because of the breaking up of Africa. Remember, Egypt was one place. Egypt was called the place of contrition. Ethiopia was called the place of the burned faces. Because who are burned faces? My face look burned. Netanyahu's face burned. Which one of us will have a burned face? So all those clues are there. So Ethiopia was called the home of the burned faces. And Chaldea is a place in Africa now. The kingdom was broken up, so it's no longer a Chaldean kingdom like the whole of Africa, which is called Egypt. It is now a small country since the conquest have turned it into what it is today. But it remains an African place.
Yeah.
If you take the roots back to put together the Chaldean kingdom, you'll be putting together Africa. That's what you'll be doing. You will not be putting together any place like Egypt or anything like that, as Israel or anything like that.
So you're saying that these people were Africans as
Yeah.
Abraham was?
Yes, yes. They were, you see, the Bible is full of stories
Yeah.
of identification of even the Jews as Africans. As soon as we come back from the break, because I need to get something straight, as soon as we come back from the break, we'll continue with this discussion.
JD Furniture Store, we believe the things you choose for your home should last your family years to come. Whether it's a cozy furniture for your bedroom, living room, or kitchen appliances, we've got it all. Obsess over your home's comfort, and we'll obsess to ensure it's affordable with zero-down options and home by you in no time. Visit JD Furniture showroom in Arima or www.jdfurniturestore.com to buy and apply today. Open weekdays only. Call or WhatsApp 219-3000 today.
Every thread holds a memory, every color a promise. At Baker's Flags and Emblems, we understand what these symbols mean. We craft each piece to carry the weight of our history, the brilliance of our future. From the spirit that forged us to the vibrant tapestry we are today, our flag witnesses it all. Carry our story proudly. Choose Baker's Flags and Emblems. Visit us today.
Yeah, okay. What was the question again?
Yeah, so I'm trying to find out, were the Africans, were they Africans as well in Chaldea as Abraham was?
All right. Abraham was a citizen. He lived among that culture. He was part of the culture.
Yeah.
He looked like them. But there's something about his family. Terah, his father, was called by God first to leave Chaldean. What had happened really, and I'm giving myself some real liberty here, God had intended to establish his people on the face of the earth. He started with Adam and Eve, and Adam was made from mud, from the ground. You never see white mud here. So Adam was, to give you an idea who Adam was, how Adam would have looked. So you started there. So his idea was to establish a people on earth, a people who will serve him, a people. Remember, the greatest thing, you cannot love without sharing, you know. When somebody loves, they share. And God wanted to share the greatest thing he could share with man, and that was life. So he had to make a man, but he didn't want to make a robot as such. Yeah. A man who would just do what he says and act on what he says. He rather made a man with free will who he can socialize to believe in certain things. And that's why when he decided to set that man among us, set that thing in train, he called Abraham. He didn't go into a new creation. He called a man. So he called Abraham from Ur of the Chaldees. And when he called Abraham from Ur of the Chaldees, Abraham began that mission for God. And he had his children, his family. In fact, in Genesis, I think it's 19:25 or 25:19, he said, I know Abraham, that he will lead his children right. That he will lead his children in the laws and the statutes. So God was not just a man, was a man who God knew will have the temerity or the gumption to move away against all the revelry and all the sin and debauchery that was in the atmosphere and walk according to the will of God. So he chose Abraham, and Abraham was as Chaldean as the people in Chaldees today. Abraham was that. Abraham was not a Chinese man, he was not an Indian man, he was not a Syrian man, he was not a white man, he wasn't an Amorite either. Abraham was a Chaldean. And it's out of Chaldees we have all the things that happen.
You know, as you spoke there, Pastor, I'm thinking about Israel. You know, Israel being God's chosen nation, as we know, right? As we were taught. So what I want to understand, I want the viewers to understand as well, the Jews in Israel, right? Are they not descendants of Abraham?
No. I know this will shock no. The Jews in Israel are really Amorites. They are Amorites. They are those. Remember, after the Jews tried to overthrow the Roman Empire, and Rome came and killed out all of them and sent them here, the governor sent them into Africa and sent them into surrounding areas and totally scattered the population. They had a few Jews remain in that area that we call Palestine today. They had the Jews remain. When I talk about Jews now, I talk about Jews, the descendants of Abraham, had a certain amount of them remained. Now, when these Amorites became converted to Judaism, they took over. They took over because they were warlike. In fact, they have certain part of the history, they are called bandits. And so when they took over the area, they began to multiply and they converted Judaism. And then since the Jews became a minority group, if you ever heard about the Farashas who are in Israel today, they came from Ethiopia also, they were African, Chaldeans, black folks. And they came to be part of Judah, became part of Israel today. But the dominant group in Israel, they are not descendants of Abraham. They are not. Abraham did not look like that. And that's why you find all over the Bible, if people have been mistaken. When Paul was in Jerusalem, the folks said to Paul, were you not the Egyptian who caused a lot of trouble in Rome? No, for the mistake, Paul, for an Egyptian, he had to look Egyptian. When Moses filled the water for Zipporah, and Jethro asked her, who filled the water for you? She said, an Egyptian filled the water. But was Moses who filled the water? Yeah. But she said, an Egyptian filled the water. Moses lived for 31 years in Egypt, and they never recognized that he was a Jew. And for that to happen, therefore, the Jews and the Egyptian had to be looking alike. Right. When Joseph sent his brothers back for Benjamin, and they came to Jacob, they said the guy kept somebody. He said the Egyptian said to send Benjamin. Now, how did his brothers not notice that he was a Jew, that Joseph was a Jew? How did they not notice that? Two things. One, Joseph was small when they sold him to Egypt. So he would have grown and they may not have recognized who he was. But he would have recognized them because they were already in the late teens and early 20s. So he recognized who they were, but they did not recognize who he was. And the second thing, the reason why they could not have said to Jacob that the guy in charge there is a Jew, because they didn't know that. He dressed like an Egyptian and he looked like an Egyptian because all of them looked like Egyptians. And that's why there was no differentiation until Moses killed the Egyptian. Then the Jew found out that he was a Jew because they thought he was just one of them, one of those Egyptians. So, and the reason why they could have think that is because they all looked alike. They all looked alike. And as the days went on, these Amorites took on more of the form of the Jews, and they went on and they multiplied, and then they took that Jewish nation to that Jewish religion to Europe, and they became carnish with it. And then Hitler decided he would do the most dastardly thing the world have ever seen and kill them in thing. And then since they look very much as those who have the power, they look very much as the as the Germans. They look very much as the English and the French, and they look very much as those people. They were willing to help them, and that came the Pick-a-Plat Agreement, where they decided that they will find a place for them because they saw them as Jews. And that's when in America, France and England decided that they will form a place in the Middle East because they said that was their homeland, because this God had promised them this land. And that's how 1947 they created this nation of Israel. And the reason why we have so much problem in Israel is because you have put some people among us. You have taken our land. And that's why the Arabs are fighting, but that's part of the prophecy also. I think we have to go for another break. Okay. Okay, all right. Yes, so that's how the whole idea came to be, that these folks are Jews. But they are not descended from Abraham. They are not. They are Amorites, as I said. They are warlike. If you go through history and they pull Amorites, they will tell you how about they are thieves, they are bandits, and we are seeing it demonstrated today. But this is also part of the prophecy that's talk about the Arabs being a wild ass of a man, and his hand will be against his brother, and his brother's hands will be against him. This is what is happening in the Middle East. These are one people, Jews and Arabs, and those from Jordan and those from Saudi Arabia. They are all alike, These are one people.
Yeah.
And that's why that area continued to be in a state of conflict. Always a state of conflict. Now the state of conflict now is what? Israel, these Amorites are fighting against their brothers in Palestine, and there's hostility all around. But the Bible said that place, that area there, will be in constant conflict. And true as the Bible is, we are witnessing that constant conflict now in the Middle East. That's what is happening. That's what's happening there right now.
Pastor, I love that illustration, but I want to ask, has the Bible ever said or even showed a change from the people from Africa to Assyria?
No, and you ask yourself why. The Bible is a book that deals with the people, his movement, where they are. So when the Bible is speaking about, let's go with Moses, there were people in other places of the world. But the Bible dealt with the children of Israel leaving Egypt and heading on to the promised land. And the Bible, remember, Judah, Israel was a small nation. Now when you read the Bible, it looks like a big, grand nation, a big, powerful nation. But no. Israel was a small nation with a lot of empires and a lot of violent empires. That's why Israel went into captivity so much time and had to pay tribute to Shalmaneser and all these people. It's because Israel was a small nation. But when we speak through the Bible, it appears as a grand nation and great things are happening and nothing else exists. No, everything existed outside of. Everything existed. But the Bible only treated with its people on their journey. So when we get to the Bible now, the Bible hardly tell you anything about Trinidad and about the West Indies and about America. Well, America, since America is in it, the Bible will tell us that she's a lamb-like beast. Because what is happening now with God's people, it's America. And there will be no more history of anything more than American history, because Jesus Christ will come in these times. So what is happening with God, the Bible, God's people, it's geared towards America. That America is so steep in prophecy. So when there was a time when America wasn't spoken about, what was spoken about was Rome. When they deal with Vigigus and Justinian and Belisarius, it was just Rome. Yeah. 1260 years, the Bible just focused on its people in Rome. So things were happening elsewhere. Things were happening back in the Middle East. Things were happening back in Europe. But the issue was just Rome, because the Bible is dealing with the prophetic journey of God and God's coming again. So when we speak about what is happening in the Assyrian kingdom, the Jews were scattered into Africa and other places, and the Bible spoke about that. The Bible spoke about how Herod came, how this zealot rise up against Herod, and how they were slaughtered. And the Bible, there was a prophecy, when you see the armies surrounding Israel, flee to the mountains, and that all that happened.
Yeah.
All that happened because the Bible was focused on that period. But the period now is no longer Moses moving children from Egypt. The period now that we are dealing with is this last period where we have a lamb-like beast, where America will assume authority, where there will be persecution of the saints. These are the times we are living in. So we'll take a break. We need a producer. We need the number. I can't remember the number to ask anyone if they want to call us this morning. But we'll break and we'll come back in a bit.
JD Furniture Store, we believe the things you choose for your home should last your family years to come. Whether it's a cozy furniture for your bedroom, living room, or kitchen appliances, we've got it all. Obsess over your home's comfort, and we'll obsess to ensure it's affordable with zero-down options and home by you in no time. Visit JD Furniture, showroom in Arima, or www.jdfurniturestore.com to buy and apply today. Open weekdays only. Call or WhatsApp 219-3000 today.
Every thread holds a memory, every color a promise. At Baker's Flags and Emblems, we understand what these symbols mean. We craft each piece to carry the weight of our history, the brilliance of our future. From the spirit that forged us to the vibrant tapestry we are today, our flag witnesses it all. Carry our story proudly. Choose Baker's Flags and Emblems. Visit us today.
Yeah, good morning again. I was saying that these groups here, they were not mentioned in the Bible as coming because the Bible focus is on the journey its people, the journey of its people until the coming of Jesus. All other side shows and things, the Bible is not into it. The Bible is not into the Industrial Revolution because that has very little to do with God and his people. There are great things that have happened in the Bible. No, the Bible is not interested in Trinidad winning last night. But but what is happening is people is what the Bible is focused on. So it's not because the Bible is speaking about Rome. That means that there was nobody living there. No, that, and as I said before, Israel is just a small nation among many, many hostile and stronger nations.
You know, Pastor, with that illustration, can we consider these groups African groups?
The area is Africa, the entire thing. Ethiopia was as far as your mind could see, not only where it is today. Egypt was as far, place of contrition was as far, not the place you are today. So those people in those areas would have been African groups, all different type of African groups in that area. Those kingdoms in that area would have been African kingdoms also. So everything there would have been African. What has happened, however, as the Romans invaded, so too did the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites. All of them invaded that area also. And as they came in, they brought in cultures, they brought in people groups and things like that. So that's how we come to have Arabs in the area. Because they came out from Mesopotamia and went into the area also. Now in Mesopotamia, which we call the Middle East today, in Mesopotamia, they had great kingdoms there also. They had Sargon, came from Mesopotamia. So they had great rulers. Shalmaneser came from Mesopotamia. So they had all these great leaders there also, who were very warlike folks. And that warlikeness, they brought into Egypt and Ethiopia with them in many of the conquests. The first conquest were not the colonizers as we know them in Britain and France and no. The first conquest were these Arab people. In fact, it is said that Arabs also sold slaves to these colonizers because they had conquered also. They were inside there also. So when the conquest started with the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Amorites, and when they started the conquest, the Assyrian kingdom was a kingdom in Mesopotamia. Yeah. So when they started the conquest into Africa, they changed a lot of things. Some were converted, some carried on the same religion, and then later on we had the Crusades that brought the whole thing back into Africa. So history will make you have a clear understanding of how these Syrians, the Assyrians, how these Arabs came to be known. But the Bible mentioned the Arabs before the Arabs were even there. When they were speaking about the fall of Babylon, the Bible spoke about it will be banished. And then no Arabs will live there. There had no Arabs at that time, and the Bible was saying that. So the Arabs come to be known as all those people. The Hittites, the Perizzites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, all of them come to be covered the term as Arabs coming from that Assyrian kingdom. And they spread as wildfire into the area. And that's how we have these people in the area.
So, Pastor, with that said, how did the Jews come to be in Israel today? How did that transition happen?
Because Israel was a small nation.
Yeah.
And after the Roman conquest, there remained a small nation, void of people and the numbers that they had. So in that small group, when the Amorites and these people came into the group, it was easy to conquer the few that remained. And when they conquered them, there was a rich culture that they met, a rich culture of religion. And that entire area is a religious area. From India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, you just name it. Religion is a big issue in those areas. And when they conquer, they were converted to the culture of the place as they conquered the place. And then they took the name of Israel, that was given to Jacob. They took that name and they became the Israelite of the day. And if I am telling this story to Netanyahu this morning, he'll be shocked by it, because he may thought the 1,000-year period that he was there, that they had been the people. In fact, some Christians this morning will be doubting me until they get to the point to read what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is not in Terrance Browne book. I wrote a book, but it's not in that book. Use your search machine this morning and put it up, and you'll find what I'm saying. From some historian will give you what I'm saying. Some will just try to tell you that these are the descendants of Abraham, and then you can debunk that easy. Because Abraham was a Chaldean, and Akkad started as a Chaldean and ended up as a European. It can't happen like that. It can't happen like that. Maybe over 1,000,000 years of marrying and intermarry, that may happen. But the time is too short for Abraham to come from Ur of the Chaldees, be a Chaldean, and then finally became a white man in just about 2,000 years. It just doesn't make any sense. The whole book, as you asked me earlier, came out of Africa. The places are African places that you read in those books. You read about the River Nile. You will not read about the Ganges in the book. You will not read about, you will not read about that waterfall in Ghana there, that great water. You won't read of those things. You won't read of the Thames River in England. You won't read about those fantastic rivers in Paris. You read about the Nile, the Euphrates. You read about the river coming out of Mesopotamia and Africa. You read about an African culture, a man with 20 wives. And you will not read about any sort of structure that is in the West. You read about African structures. You read a man going to look for a wife for his son. African thing. You read about a great agrarian society where men are rich based on agriculture. Those are the things that you will read about. So these fellas could not have descended from Abraham. Even by a stretch, it couldn't happen.
So, Pastor, who are these people? And how are they the only people from that era claiming to be descendants from Abraham?
Because, and good question, because these are questions that people may have. Good question. You see, the others, as I said, Judah or Israel was a small nation among many larger nations. And these nations had their own culture that was not firmly fixed in God. That's why all those cultures have disappeared. But the Jewish culture remained because God is driving. God knew what was going to happen. So God was driving the whole thing. So when they came into Judea and they conquered Judea and they got that culture and they began to live, because the Judeo-Christian culture is a rich culture. It benefits. There's a lot of benefit to it. So when they embrace that culture, and I want to stop by to say, there are a lot of people who say that the Bible is a white man book, and they try to tell black people that. But the black people who have embraced the Bible, they have stronger family lives. They are more educated. They are more peaceful. The rest of them are in jail. And because God has created this culture for man. For man. And once you embrace this culture, your success will bloom. And when I say success, I don't mean money in your pocket. I mean success. Your family structure, your way of thinking, your peacefulness, your staying out of jail, out of harm's way. All those things you benefit from this. When they got into Judah, they saw this rich culture. They were warlike people, and they recognized that if they live at peace with their fellow man, what they benefit, and they accept the laws that the Jews had, and they became Jews, converted Jews, and they begin to embrace the culture and protect it and project it also. As I said before, if Netanyahu hear me speaking this morning, he might be shocked. But this is where you became from, my brother. And that's how it is gelled together. And that's how these folks today claim to be Jews. Yeah. If they had conquered some other part of the area, they may have been that. As the Arab conquest in Jordan and Saudi Arabia and these places, they hold to that. Remember, I can only be what I am based on who I'm around, not no jump into my mind just like that, It's what I'm around, what I see, what I hear, what I touch, what I feed on. These are the things that will cause me to be who I am. So if you take me now and now I'm too old for that. But even when I was small, all 5 years and things, you put me to live among people who are warlike, gossipers, fighters, thieves, prostitutes, and gangbangers, more than likely that's who I'll become. More than likely that's who I'll become. So we are socialized based on what we are wrong. My peacefulness could tell you that my father was a peaceful person. You don't have to go far to understand that. And if I'm warlike, more than likely could tell that my father was warlike. It is that process that we are socialized into and become who we become.
Pastor, as we conclude, and I have one final question for you. So the persons who may be, subscribing to my arts and reading the Kibanigas, etc., how do we break down, as you would have said, the Bible is an African book, right? For those persons who are, pro-Africans, meaning, they just not with this colonization thing. How do we break down, the Bible being an African book?
Well, they were misled by Van Sertima and this guy. They were misled into thinking it was a white man book, a Western book that they brought to us, and we took it on, and now we're reading it. They were misled into thinking that. They did not stop to understand how the oral tradition created the Bible. They did not stop to understand where was the first book talking about Abraham. They did not take time to understand who Melchizedek was. They did not take time to understand how the conquest happened from the Mesopotamia, from further up, from Rome. They did not take time to understand these things. And they run with a narrative of what they saw was painted by Michelangelo. So they saw this white, gay-looking figure, and those folks embraced it as Jesus. And these pro-African fellas, they are smart enough to know that this white guy with long blonde hair and well-groomed could not be Jesus. Could not be Jesus. So, so I understand what he's saying. Yeah, could not be Jesus, and they hold to that, and they begin to have the idea that white man write this book, and if you ask them how they wrote it, they cannot tell you.
Yeah.
And since these fellows who say these things don't understand biblical prophecy, then they will see the book just as another book, like Hansel and Gretel, like Jack and the Beanstalk, because the profound nature of the book, the science of the book. When men were saying that the world was flat, the Bible was saying the world was wrong. When the Bible said that God created man from the dust of the ground, if you analyze me, all the elements of the earth will be found in me.
Yeah.
So all those things that they miss when they say the Bible is a book of high science. And if you don't understand these things, you run with the idea that this is a white man book. But this is the greatest book of science that the world have known.
Yeah.
Greatest of all. So, until next week, I want to thank you for listening. We had no calls this morning, I don't know why, but I think this was such an interesting topic. We'll have more calls. So I want to thank our producer, Jasoni, for giving us another great program. And until I catch you next week, and if you want to contact me, you could contact me at 379-4859. 379-4859. Until next week, may God bless you richly. Be good to yourself.
Bye.
What's going on?